And we take a look at the hay bale garden this morning. You see the lovely zinnias and sunflowers that wrap around the back of the garden and down the side. Here's the squash and cucumbers. As you can see, they're doing quite nicely. We've got plenty of squash coming on. This is a particularly cool squash. It's called a zephyr. It looks like a half zucchini, half straight neck yellow squash. I grow these every year. Love them. You can see we've got plenty of little baby cucumbers coming on here. I like to just set a piece of cattle panel against some T-post. I use a couple of tent stakes to hold it down on top of the bale at the top and then lean it back against the tent post, put the tent post behind the bale a little bit. It makes it easy to come up here behind and pick your vegetables. And you can see the squash is all looking nice. More cucumbers down there on a bent or a lean-to, so to speak. And then you can see our bell pepper and sweet pepper row. This has got all kinds of different kinds of bell peppers and banana peppers, spicy and sweet peppers. And you can see there are peppers on a lot of these plants already. Sizing up. I put the strings from the bales that I tore apart to put in the base of the garden to keep the weeds down and give us something clean to walk on. I use those bale strings as my strings. And then as these pepper plants grow up through here, we can weave them through the strings and or even tie them to the strings. And you can see we got plenty of really nice bell peppers coming on here. And some banana peppers. And lots of other peppers down here. Hard to see from this side is that's actually a pimento pepper. Pimentos are made from a form of bell pepper. Now you can see our tomatoes. They're growing up over the top of the cattle panel. That's over 6.5 feet tall, almost 7 feet tall from the top of the bale, so it's about a 6-foot tomato plant. Plenty of little tomatoes. We've got rainbow bells down here and a couple of other different varieties of cherry tomatoes. A few more of them in there are ready to pick. These are a blackened cherry tomato, kind of like a black crim, but it's in a cherry tomato form. Kind of cool. And then we've got lots of other tomato varieties, regular table-sized tomato varieties, and they're all putting on tomatoes. And you can see what we do here is we put T-posts on both sides of the bale, butt it right up against the bale, and then tie strap cattle panels to both sides to make a channel. The tomatoes grow up, the branches hang out, and where the branches get too frisky hanging out, we can either weave them, bend them as they grow and weave them back into the cattle panel, or here where they've grown out and grown up, we just took a couple of pieces of socks that we cut into little ringlets, and we just loop the ringlets through each other and make a stretchy little bungee cord and tie it onto the cattle panel to hold them up so that they don't fall over and break themselves from their weight. But you can see plenty of tomatoes on here forming up. Nice little tomatoes. So those are your tomatoes. Now in the center of the garden, I'm trying not to move too quick so I don't make you seasick. These are square bales that we planted in a square. And then the center we filled up with hay and put some compost on top. We planted sweet potatoes all the way around here. That's what these vines here are. And then you can also see we have argonaut and butternut squash growing in the center. And it comes up over through the sweet potatoes, and they'll vine all out, and we'll kind of turn the vines in a big circle around this bale as they spread, and we'll have lots and lots and lots of acorn squash. There's the garden tunnel over on that side. We'll look at that in a second. This one here is the same configuration, a square set of bales. You have 2 or 3 kinds of watermelons growing in the center there, and they just grow up and spread out, and you can see the combination of sweet potato vine and watermelon vine. And there's plenty of baby watermelons on these vines. And again, we just kind of, as the vines grow out, we kind of pick them up and route them in a circle and just make a big circle around the thing. And I gave myself plenty of room here between these linear bales and these square bales, so there's plenty of room to walk and plenty of room for these vines to spread. And you can see the vines reaching all out from under the sweet potatoes there. These are some I need to go ahead and turn around to keep me a little path that I can make through here. And this one back here is a combination of cantaloupes and sweet potatoes. And if you look in here, already got us a couple of nice sized cantaloupes. That one there is a little bit bigger than my fist, and that one there is about the size of my fist. They're sizing up nicely. It'll be ripe in about 4 or 5 days. Our strawberry towers are across the back of the garden. These really aren't hay bales. What these are some rabbit wire that I twisted in a circle, locked it into itself to make a cylinder. I made a smaller cylinder in the center. You can see we've got some strawberries in there. Made a smaller cylinder in the center. I wrapped the inside with landscaping fabric, wrapped the center cylinder with landscaping fabric, and then I filled the thing up with a combination of straw and compost, or hay and compost, to fill it up, and then cut little X's in the side and plant the strawberries. And even as the little runners form, you can take these runners and stick them into empty spots in there, and they'll take off and make more plants. So that's the strawberries. And coming across, you can see all of the sunflowers blooming across the back of the garden, along with the zinnias, the pretty zinnias, and some of the marigolds. Marigolds are good to plant around the perimeter of your garden because there are a lot of your garden pests that do not like the smell and the oil from a marigold, and it'll make them not enter your garden because they don't want to cross the marigolds to get in here. They don't like the scent of the adjacent plants. Now this is some more squash here. This is spaghetti squash, again a vining squash, interplanted with sweet potatoes. And look there, we got us a little weed trying to grow up in between the sweet potatoes and the others. We'll just snatch that out of there. I'll follow it down to its base. It's coming up from below. It's not the hay bale, it's coming up from the ground next to the hay bale there. I got the root and everything, so that'll die. But you can see by spreading about 2-inch thick layer of hay all the way around this garden, I've got a nice walking path. It's easy to keep the weeds out of. My melons, when they grow out, and my squash, when they vine out and grow on this, I don't have problems with rot at the bottom of my melons and my squash. But that's a combination of sweet potatoes and spaghetti squash growing there. We have some more hot peppers growing back here in these bales. Jalapenos and hot banana peppers and various other things. We've got a late crop of green beans that are just starting to crawl up this cattle panel here, and you can see they're all growing up in here. And you can even grow some cabbages down underneath here because the beans will shade them. Even in the summer heat, you can grow cabbage, bok choy, regular head cabbage underneath these green beans. They'll grow quite well together. Again, all you got is a piece of cattle panel about 5 foot long. I cut it into a 5 foot length, sat the base at the top edge of the bale, used a couple tent stakes to lock it in place, offset my T-post about 1.5 feet from behind the bale, 2 feet depending on how much of an angle you want, and then just angled the thing back, put a couple of tie straps on it. You got a perfect thing to grow cucumbers. You can grow vining squash on this, small squash. You can grow any kind of green bean that's a pole bean, and your fruit hangs down here where it's easy to get to, and on the sunny afternoon you're standing in the shade underneath this picking stuff, so it's great. Here's your, I think this is some collards, yeah, some Georgia collards. We have some late cabbage there that's heading up on these bales. And then down here, this is a new thing for us this year, a garden tunnel. And we've got a little bit of everything planted around this tunnel. We've got green beans, squash, what else we got? Green beans, squash, cucumbers, kale, cabbage, collards, some tomatoes on both corners here, eggplants. Now see, this eggplant here is falling over a little bit. All I got to do is take me some of those socks that I cut into ringlets, wrap one around here, and tie it onto this cattle panel. That'll hold that in place, and I'll get that here in a little bit. We'll just stick this eggplant down in there to hold it in place for a minute. But you got a nice eggplant there. These are some bush beans that we've picked beans off of, but they're still going. You can see the cucumbers, and we've already got some nice little cucumbers sizing up on there. These are pickling cucumbers. This is called Boston Pickler. Over in the front part of the garden I showed you, those were Miss Pickler. They're small, very crispy cucumbers for pickling. We've got some edamame here. We come out here every evening and pick us a little pot or a bowl of edamame and steam them. And eat them with some soy sauce, really yummy, otherwise known as soybeans. And again, you can see the cucumbers. We've also got, I forget, some turban squash or something that's growing up. You can see the big leaf there from it that's also vining up here. They'll grow all the way up by the end of summer. You can see the cucumbers are all the way up here at head height. This one here is about to make it over the top. These cucumbers, and there's some green beans about to make it over the top. These pole beans and cucumbers will grow all the way across top and make a nice shady tunnel. And even during the summer, you'll be able to grow some spring and fall stuff on the inside of the tunnel, because the things growing over the top will give you enough shade and cool it down just enough to where you can grow fall and spring things in here, like squashes and lettuces and stuff, because of the natural shade from the other plants. Here we have some of the ichiban. These are ichibans. They're the long, narrow eggplants, which are great for grilling. Just cut them in half, put a little olive oil and garlic on them, and you just grill those. Beautiful, delicious. Got some young okra here that I just transplanted. I had some other okra that I'd planted before and it failed for some reason. So I started some new in some seed pots in the greenhouse, and then brought out here and plunked them into the hay bales, and they've tripled in size in just a week. Okra is an aggressive grower when it's got plenty of heat and plenty of moisture. And then here's some plum tomatoes, and you can see how we tied this one up here, and these are falling down. This is all the growth over the last 3 or 4 days. They're growing so fast, I have to come out here every 2 or 3 days and lift them up here and tie them up to the trellis. But you can see all the beautiful plum tomatoes there, ready to be, in a few days, they'll ready to be picked and canned. And that's pretty much the hay bale garden. As you can see, we've got the cabbages and stuff down here. Let me walk up here to the front. There's Layla, one of my pussy cats, one of my garden cats. And you can see hay bale gardening works quite well. Whether you use straw or hay, doesn't matter. Follow Joel's conditioning practice, no matter what kind of hay you're using. If you are using hay, grass hay like I'm using, because straw is hard to get and expensive in southeast coastal Georgia, you can use grass hay. Just follow Joel's conditioning process as outlined in his book. And be sure and ask for the old hay, the hay that's 2 or 3 years old. It's lighter, easier to move. Most of the seeds in it are inert. As you can see, I don't have any grass sprouting out of any of these bales. You buy the 2 or 3 year old grass hay, you condition it properly, and it'll grow beautiful vegetables. You don't have any grass sprouting. It makes a wonderful, wonderful garden.